Hey, hope you're doing well. Two people have done a collaboration and made a video called The Stolen Generation is a Myth. Now, the person on YouTube calls himself Blacklisted Research, and on Bitchute, he calls himself Daniel Walker. The other person calls himself Adelaide Unveiled and Unveiled 2 on YouTube and Beady on Bitchute. Now, the two of them are also trying to say in the video that the Rabbit Proof Fence movie is based on fiction, not a fact.
When I was a child back in primary school, I can remember many occasions where the teachers would talk about the stolen generation. I don't really know if it was actually part of the curriculum or if it was just something various teachers back then liked to constantly remind us of. For those who don't know, the stolen generation is a major point of grief and victimhood for the Aboriginal industrial complex. According to Wikipedia, quote, "The stolen generation, also known as stolen children, were the children of Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander descent who were removed from their families by the Australian federal and state government agencies and church missions, under acts of their respective parliaments." Back in 2002, there was a movie produced called Rabbit Proof Fence, brought to you by Rumballara Films and Olsen Levy Productions, which is based on the 1996 book Follow the Rabbit Proof Fence by Doris Pilkington. When the movie first came out, everyone was told it was based on a true story. In fact, it was mandatory watching for many children in public schools in Australia. After the film was released, the term stolen generation was popularised greatly by many Aboriginal rights protesters and various organisations, attributing this to being a form of genocide. Obviously, terms like genocide and the usage of the word stolen being hotly contended by many politicians, historians, and academics. This film had an enormous impact on the public opinion of government policies spanning back many years before. So much so that in 2008, Kevin Rudd, then Prime Minister, gave his very famous apology speech, where he decided to say sorry.
In the early 90s, I'd rallied with Aboriginal people. We went from Victoria Square to Adelaide Parliament House. They wanted the apology from the Queen Mother. The only reason why Kevin Rudd apologised is because the Queen Mother wasn't going to. There are a lot of Australians that do not accept Kevin Rudd's apology.
Aboriginal people for the stolen generation narrative.
This blemished chapter in our national history. We apologise, especially for the removal of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children from their families.
Just while I'm playing this video, I'd also like to point out Julia Gillard's haircut. It really is something special, and totally worth pointing out. We also have National Sorry Day, every single year to remind us of just how horrible Australian people are. However, when we actually study the film's validity, it seems to be a terrible reflection of the truth. Many historians have doubted the validity of this movie, and it seems the creators of the film took liberty with twisting the storyline for artistic purposes. So much so, when you refer to the Wikipedia entry on the movie today, you can see it no longer says, based on a true story, but, quote, it is loosely based on a true story.
This guy here, right, his name is Edmund Barton. He was Australia's first Prime Minister. In 1901, he brought out the White Australia policy. He also elected A.O. Neville, as some people like to call him, the devil, to be able to remove Aboriginal children from anywhere in Western Australia, as some of these children were referred to by the government as half-caste children.
But I since have no doubt that it was genocide. One of the definitions of genocide is the 5th clause in the definition in the Genocide Convention, and it says the removal of children from their communities with a view to extinguishing their culture. Now, you've only got to say that to appreciate that it was genocide. That's exactly what the assimilation policy was all about in its effect. And taking these children, whatever the motives and however good they were, it nevertheless was a necessary part of the practice, the policy, to separate them from their families and communities in order to extinguish their culture. And it was not only their culture, their connection with land, that important connection which is really part of an Aboriginal person's very being, and it was clearly genocide.
How can we have reconciliation without caring for all children? Not only then, not only now, but for all time.
Between 1910 and 1970, over 100,000 Aboriginal children and some adults were removed from their communities around Western Australia and taken to the Moore River settlement. Now, clearly, Blacklisted research didn't do that. His research. You can go into any state library and ask to have a look at the archives, and you can see for yourself. I will leave a few links in the description, and you can have a read for yourself, and you will see that this guy has just thrown a whole pile of racist information together and gone, yep, that will do. But yeah.
In traditional Aboriginal society, girls this age could be married. They had intercourse immediately. Daisy could be removed from Jigalong under the 1905 Aboriginal Act because she was a half-caste girl. Had she been a full-blooded Aborigine, she could not have legally been removed, and would have had to go through with the marriage." Unquote. There is also a part in the film, which I will play for you in a minute, where Neville gives a speech, where seemingly racist undertones are made to help set the mood of the film and paint Neville as the villain of the movie.
Notice, if you will, the half-caste child. And there are ever-increasing numbers of them. Now, what is to happen to them? Are we to allow the creation of an unwanted third race? Should the coloureds be encouraged to go back to the black? Or should they be advanced to white status and be absorbed in the white population?
As you can see, this is A.O. Neville. Now, Blacklisted research is trying to say, oh, the movie made him out to be a monster. He was a monster. Him and his mate, A.J. Neal, and you can Google this if you like, both of them abused Aboriginal children. A.J. Neal was actually SA'd a few boys and girls, and a couple of girls ended up getting pregnant. And over 200 children died at the Moore River settlement. The Borgum Cemetery. There are some graves there that are unmarked, and there are quite a lot of children there, some even babies, as a result of the abuse that was inflicted upon them by A.O. Neville and A.J. Neal.
As it turns out, this is also completely fabricated. Referring back to this article, Keith Wintershuttle says the following, quote, "The speech in the film to a Perth Ladies Charity Society by actor Kenneth Branagh, playing A.O. Neville, was never made by the real Neville. The words did not come from a transcript found in any historical archive, but were created for the film by screenwriter Christine Olsen. When the girls were removed in 1931, Neville did not have control over the marriages of all the Aborigines in the state. The Western Australian government never gave him either the legal authority or the funding to manage Aboriginal people's affairs in the way the film alleges." Unquote. There are a lot of themes in the film which also seem to be based on a gross exaggeration. For an example, the Moore River settlement in the movie is depicted as some sort of prison that Aboriginal children were sent to against their will, where they were treated poorly. Most of the Aboriginals there went so voluntarily and temporarily to gain access to welfare. In 1931, Molly, Gracie and Daisy were 3 of only 4 children in the whole state sent there, out of an Aboriginal population of about 29,000. children in the whole state sent there, out of an Aboriginal population of about 29,000 at the time. The feature of this film also depicts the 3 Aboriginal children crossing the northwestern desert unassisted, nearly perishing in the process. But the truth, according to Keith Wintershuttle, the girls were eventually brought home to Jigalong by a white cattle station contractor riding on his camels.
This was a prison known as the Quad. Thousands of Aboriginal men and boys were incarcerated here, many of them tortured and killed.
Rick Abbots, a government minister at the time when the film was released, announced the publishing of a leaflet criticising the film's portrayal of the treatment of Indigenous Australians, claiming it was grossly exaggerated, and demanded an apology from the filmmakers, one which never came. Pilkington was very unhappy with the critical feedback the film received from commentators like Andrew Bolt and historian Keith Wintershuttle, but acknowledged that her book is different to the film. All the previously stated information about the 3 girls in the film is discussed in more detail, with complete references to sources in the preface to The Fabrication of Aboriginal History, Volume 3, The Stolen Generations, for anyone who would like more information on the topic. The book is very hard to find, however, but the PDF version is pretty easy to obtain, for anyone who is interested in fact-checking it for themselves. There are a lot of fabrications promoted by academics and media outlets in general on the topic of the stolen generation, especially by the ABC, SBS and NITV, all of which promote the idea that the No campaign for the Voice referendum pushes disinformation. How ironic. The stolen generation is a topic I wish to explore in the future, as that topic deserves a unique video of its own, being such an extensive topic. So I wanted to mostly discuss the inaccuracies of the film itself and how it plays into the discourse of Australian culture today. I came across some very interesting content from an activist in Adelaide who has been keeping a very close eye on a lot of these radical left-wing groups over the years. Beady, the activist from Adelaide, has been researching some of these groups and documenting their level of influence. After he was booted out of the area during one of Natasha's protests, he released a video showing footage of the protest and some of the speeches.
That footage there that Blacklisted Research used is actually my footage from the Vote No rally. Jake Beard is no activist. He steals people's content and tries to palm it off as his own. As you can clearly see, that Blacklisted Research gave him the credit for my footage. Now, Jake Beard is a liar, a manipulator, a con artist, a backstabber, a narcissist, and a thief. He cannot be trusted. Now, he's standing up there with his Freemason Get Out sign. He was asked to move. He refused to move. The 2 guys decided to stand in front of him to block his sign because it was taking the attention away from what Natasha was saying. When he's going to walk off, you see him shove the guy, and off camera, he decided to chuck a wobbly like a 2-year-old sport brat because he wasn't getting his own way, and that is why he was asked to leave the rally, which they had every right to ask him to leave. He had no right to do what he did. There are a lot of remote Aboriginal communities that are living in places that shouldn't even be still standing. The government will do nothing to help these people. So good on Natasha for speaking out, because I've seen it for myself that some of them are living in tin sheds. They don't have access to running water. There's no gas, no electricity, because the government refused to help these people. And in regards to a toilet, no such thing, unless you want to do it on the ground. A lot of people complain about how the government don't fix government housing, or complain that their landlord's not doing what he's supposed to be doing to maintain the property. But yet we have got Aboriginal communities that are living in tin sheds, houses that are falling down around them, no water, no gas, no electricity. So, yeah, if a lot more people knew how the Australian government have been treating Aboriginal people for over 100 years, there'd be less racism in this country. So if you want to, like I said previously, you can go to any state library, ask to look at the archives, and you will see everything. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video, because the truth does need to be put out there, and people that spread racism and hatred do need to be exposed. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a lovely day, evening or night or weekend, whatever. But yeah, bye.